Yo, Santa people. Okay, so let's talk about Metallica's latest release, S&M 2, the sequel. Okay, so they released S&M 2, I guess a few days ago now, and it's a great album. Let me clear that from the beginning. It's a great album. I listened to it a bunch of times. I really dig this album. I will say that if you are not particularly familiar with Metallica, probably not the best place to start. It's not a terrible place to start because you've got to start somewhere, but probably not the best place to start because it is all new versions, I'll get to that in a moment, of older songs. So what they've done is they've taken their heavy metal songs and they've teamed up with the San Fransico Orchestra and they've given them a contemporary classical twist. Now this is S&M 2, which comes after, of course, S&M 1, or just S&M as it was called back then, which was released. This is that album, can't really see it because it's too much light, by the way, but this is S&M, which was released back in 1999. And at the end of this album, by the way, Lars says, was it Lars or was it Kurt? I can't remember, but one of them says, same time next year, guys. Next year, really? 1999, 2020, really? But this album is actually pretty special to me, and I'll explain why. I started listening to heavy metal probably around about 95, 96-ish, and one of the things that I noticed, maybe not right away, but certainly in the first maybe year or two or so, is that heavy metal and classical music, to my ears, seemed very, very similar. Let me explain it this way. If you take, say, your average heavy metal song by Metallica or whoever, Megadeth, doesn't really matter who, but you take your average heavy metal song and you played it with a cello or a violin or that sort of thing, it would sound like just your typical classical music piece. Likewise, if you took, say, your typical classical music piece by, I don't know, maybe Mozart. I say Mozart, probably more Mozart than Bach. I was about to say Bach, but maybe more Mozart than Bach. But anyway, if you take a typical piece by, let's say, Mozart, you played it with the electric guitars and the drums and the bass, it would sound like just an average heavy metal song. And I remember saying that to some people and, kind of getting dismissed, like, oh, don't be silly, whatever, they're different, man, whatever. And then this album comes out by Metallica, one of my favorite bands in the world ever to this day. And it is heavy metal with a contemporary classical twist. And I was like, yes. So yeah, I really dig this album, really love this album. It was a great album. It took something like, was it 20 something songs, 21, 20, 20 something, however many songs it was. And it was all their old heavy metal songs with the contemporary classical twist, except two, which were completely original. And that was No Leaf Clover, and I think it's pronounced Dash. I don't think I've ever heard anybody pronounce the song name, to be honest. So, and if I have, maybe I wasn't paying attention. But Dash Human or Minus Human, or maybe it's just Human. But anyway, that song, those two were original pieces where they collaborated with the San Fransico Orchestra to create and perform, and that's what they did, and they released this in 1999. And then same time next year, more like 20 years later, S&M 2 comes out. And yes, still a great album, still fantastic. I love the idea of mixing heavy metal with an orchestra. And I hope they do more like this. In fact, I hope more rock bands do more stuff like this because it's just an awesome sound. You know how you get like a lot of, there was a while back in the, I think like the 2000s or so, there was a lot of hip hop artists collaborating with rock and roll musicians and rap rock, or rock rap, whatever you want to call it. But there was a lot. You had new metal, they call that was it, new metal. So you had like a lot of a fusion between rock and hip hop, and that was a big thing for a while. That all happens now, but it's maybe not as big right now. But hopefully, I'd like to see something like that where more rock bands collaborate with orchestras and have that sound come out for, but we will see. It's not much. That's what I'd like to see. I'm just putting it out into the world. Whether it happens or not, it's up to the people who create music, right? But anyway, so it's a great album. S&M is a great album too, and and S&M 2. S&M is a great album too. S&M 2 is a great album. Yes, as well, English. Here's the thing though, and this is what I noticed about S&M 2, and it's not something that I'm mad at. I'm just not sure I understand why they'll do this. It seems like an odd choice to me. And what it is that... So yeah, this is... They've taken their old heavy metal songs and they've given them a classical twist. With S&M, they did that, and with S&M 2, they're doing that. However, with S&M 2, I counted, I think, 8 songs that are on S&M 2 that are also on the first album, S&M. And not only that, to my ears, they sound exactly the same. Like, maybe not exactly the same. They're live. I'm sure there's differences somewhere. It's never going to be exactly the same when it's live music, right? At least to me, the differences, if any, are very insignificant. You know, I'm listening to them. I listen to S&M again. I'm listening to some of them back to back, and I'm like, I don't think I'm hearing the difference between the versions on one album to the other album, that they're sounding the same to me. And I'm just not sure why you'd have that, why you'd do that, when it's like, since S&M, that was 1999 that got released, it's now 2020, probably 2019 when they were actually recorded the album. So let's say 20 years. In the last 20 years, Metallica has put out 3 studio albums, 4 studio albums really, but one of them was a collaboration piece. So 4 albums in total. So there's a lot of music to choose from in the last 20 years. Yet they went with 8 songs they've already done. And not only that, it's the exact same version, or, well, near enough to the exact same versions as the ones they put in the first album. You know, 8 out of, 20-something songs, 22 songs? No, that's a significant number. That's a significant number. You know, 8 tracks out of 22 were already done on the first album, and they're exactly the same. And especially when you consider that in 20 years, the San Francisco Orchestra has changed. You know, or at the very least, I assume they changed. I mean, at the very least, I know the conductor is different, because Michael Kamen, who conducted the San Francisco Orchestra on the first album, he passed away, so they're now conducted by Edwin Outwater. And I'm kind of assuming that other members of the San Francisco Orchestra have changed over the last 20 years as well. Maybe some people left, some people have come in. Metallica have changed in the last 20 years. They don't have the exact same lineup as they did in 1999. So there's a few changes in the last 20 years, a whole bunch of songs to choose from, yet you go with 8 tracks that are already done and in the same version. And it's like, if you are going to choose these, do the same tracks again, why not have different versions? I mean, it's like you've got different members, different people involved, different ideas, different creativity. I'm not mad at it, because again, it's a great album. These are still great songs. Even 20 years later, they're fantastic songs. I'm just thinking to myself, it seems like an odd choice to not only go with 8 tracks they've already done, but do the same versions of those tracks that you've already done, when there's so much to choose from and so much you can do. But that was a decision made by Metallica bosses, or if they have bosses, I don't know, whoever makes the decisions in Metallica. That probably Lars, I guess. But what they've done with this one, it's a little bit different, is they have a couple of tracks. One which is Scythian Suite, Opus 22, The Enemy, God, and The Dance of the Dark Spirits live, which was performed by the San Francisco Orchestra, and as far as I can tell, with no interference. I'm going to use that word. no input from Metallica, as far as I can tell. From I haven't seen the Blu-ray DVD, so I don't know. But from what I'm hearing, it doesn't sound like Metallica were involved. Sonically, and I used the word correctly that time. I know I used the wrong word in the last video, but sonically, it doesn't sound like Metallica did anything with this one. And then the Iron Foundry, which is a piece by Alexander Moslov, but this is being performed by Metallica. So whereas all the other tracks are heavy metal songs with a contemporary classical twist, this is a contemporary classical piece with a heavy metal twist, so that was pretty cool to hear. By the way, I just kind of realized I said there's 22 tracks on the album, which technically there's 22 tracks on the album, but a couple of them are intros, as people talking, so there's actually 20 songs or 20 pieces of music on an album. So out of 20 pieces of music, 8 of them were already done. Feels like an odd choice to me. That's nearly half the album. That's nearly half the album was already done before, but it doesn't ruin it for me. It just feels like an odd choice. By the way, 8 tracks. I didn't count Ecstasy of Gold, because they just do that at the beginning of their concerts anyway. So 8 other tracks already been done before, same versions. Not mad, just an odd choice. But anyway, for me, the standout tracks on the new album are Halo on Fire, The Unforgiven 3, and All Within My Hands. I mean, all the songs are great, but those 3 for me, I love the fusion of the heavy metal and the orchestra, and I feel like those tracks, it works so well, and especially with Halo on Fire, it feels like that really complemented the sound of that one, so just like it elevated it to like a next level of just awesomeness. Oh, and also this album is actually available on CD, which doesn't seem to happen very much these days. Most albums just get streamed only. This is actually available on CD. I haven't got it on CD, though I feel like I do want to get it on CD, mainly because I have every other Metallica album on CD as well, so it's kind of like I should probably get this on CD too. But I'm also thinking I might get it on vinyl, because I tend to collect more vinyl pieces these days, so I don't know, I might have to do both. And Metallica might make me go broke, because I'm looking at some of the prices as well, especially like the collector's editions. It comes with this, that, and everything. It's like 100. Oish, Metallica that make me go broke. But yeah, it is available on CD for those people who still actually buy CDs. Or you could just stream it if you got, like, you know, Spotify or YouTube Music or one of these streaming platforms. You can listen to it there. But whichever way you do it, it's worth checking out, in my opinion. If you're new to Metallica, maybe start somewhere else and then come back to this album. But in any case, it's a great album, worth checking out. And yeah, that's what I think of S&M Part 2. Let me know what you think of it if you listen to it. Let me know what you think of this video. Let me know if you have any recommendations or suggestions of things for me to listen to, review, or anything else you want to let me know. Just drop it in the comments. But that's going to be it for the minute. So guys, until whenever, if ever, peace. In fact, you know what? Let me end this like my man Andrew. Heavy listening. Check out Andrew Sennedra's channel. Awesome channel.